people were honking at them and stuff like that. But, you know, I was just so young. My Uncle Kevin practically raised me when my dad passed away. And so my dad and my Uncle Kevin and my Uncle Chris, even though I was really young when he passed, are the ones that kind of stick in my mind the most. Well, Uncle Kevin I still talk to and see all the time, but so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was just going to state that one thing, I mean, there, you know, again, I think a lot of times Mike gets, in the grand scheme of things, as far as, you know, wrestling historians and whatnot, whatever, he gets overshadowed a lot, you know, and I think that it's a shame in a way because he actually was a better worker in the ring than I think to this day he gets credit for. I always thought he was definitely, you know, way better than what a lot of people remember him by. And I would hope that as years go on that eventually someday Mike will be up there with the rest of them, you know, as far as what he did in the ring.
Yeah, we need to get some more footage and things like that, especially on the Von Erich DVD and stuff that we put out. It would have been nice to showcase him a little bit more because I agree. I think he was an amazing wrestler, and his tag teams with my dad and stuff that I've watched are, you know, amazing. They were great together. And, you know, he died before my dad, and I think people remember the most my dad and Uncle Kevin's tag team because it was the latest, you know?
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Definitely. How do you feel about the way you carry your father's name, of course, Von Erich, to the way that someone like Brooke Hogan carries her father's name for her music career? How do you feel in comparison? Like, how would you compare the way you carry your father's name to the way she carries hers?
Well, my granddad made up the name, you know, whenever he wanted to get into wrestling and stuff. So he kind of made it for the wrestling world. So I feel like I'm using the name appropriately. I'm using it as a wrestler just like he intended. But I am going to be using it in my acting career as well. So I kind of transitioned from where it was supposed to be into the movie world. But, you know, Brooke has a right to her dad's name, too. He's the only one that has it. And, you know, they're the Hogans. And I've known them, you know, since I was really little. And, you know, whatever her dad says she can do. Like, if Granddad was still alive and I just told him I wanted to be a singer and I want to use the name, I don't think he would be opposed to it.
What kind of song would you write to go up against Brooke Hogan on the Billboard charts? What kind of song would you write? Something like Achy Breaky Heart, your own version of it, or would it be something different?
Oh, God, if I could sing. I have no clue. I've never thought about singing. You know, I did think about singing, actually, when I was a little girl. I told my grandfather I wanted to be a country singer.
Hannah Montana.
And so he bought me cowboy boots and a country hat and, like, cowboy hat or whatever. And he took me to a recording studio. And I sang I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, my twang country voice. And we listened to it, and I was the worst singer ever, and I gave my dreams up when I was 10 years old when I did that. So that was my singing career.
Not everybody can be a Hannah Montana.
So I don't think me and Brooke will ever be a head-to-head.
Not everybody can be a Miley Cyrus, I tell you that. But Ben, go ahead with a question.
Okay. Lacey, the next question, well, one of the questions I was going to ask you was comparing the two DVD releases that were released in the last few years, the Heroes of World Class and the WWE-produced Triumph and Tragedy. Now, personally, to me, I thought the Heroes of World Class DVD pretty much blew the WWE version out of the water in terms of content and just like the heart, as far as the emotion and heart of what World Class was supposed to be. The one thing that kind of irritated me on the WWE release, and I didn't know if you had an opinion on this or not, but it just seemed like towards the end of the WWE release, like it tried a little bit to shed World Class in a bad light as far as the, you know, drug culture and whatnot. And I just thought they could have. Overall, it was a nicely done DVD, but I just felt they didn't give enough of the good stuff. That the WWE one kind of piled on the bad stuff that happened at World Class, and you know, it didn't see it as the great promotion that did so much for the wrestling business in general. Did you have an opinion on the difference between the two releases at all?
Well, I think you're asking the wrong person if you're opposed to the whole drug part, because I lost 5 of my uncles and my father to drugs because of wrestling. So for me to say that, that's what I remember. I remember funerals and deaths and drugs and, all of the tragedy of my family when I think of world-class wrestling. But I also think of how much more, special it was and how many people wish they could go back. And, people are only fans of the WWE these days because they're remembering world-class wrestling, in my opinion. And they remember, the good times, and it's almost kind of like when they watch it, I bet they're thinking, I wish this used to be how it was. And I think that if there was never any world class and WWE just came out, it wouldn't be the same audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the same. It's just, they changed it to entertainment for a reason. It's no longer just like a wrestling match. It's kind of like a Broadway show with greased up guys. But that's just my opinion, because I watched all the DVDs of my family and stuff, and I just don't think there's a comparison to the men that are out there today.
Definitely. Have you ever stopped and thought about, we all eventually do have to go. I have to die, Ben's going to die eventually. We're all given a number, and we just have to live life to the fullest. And, you just have to realize that sooner or later, no matter who you are or what you do, you're going to have to go. My mother died of cancer 3 years ago. And, it really hit me hard, and I stopped and I realized, well, it was going to happen eventually at some point, and I got to go sometime. We all got to go, That's what you got to do. You just got to live life the best way you can.
I just think we should all live till at least we're 60 and not in your 30s,
Old enough to get my old age pension.
It's just hard. It's hard for a little girl not to have their dad growing up. And, he was really special, and I think he did live his life to the fullest when he was alive, and I only hear good things about Daddy to the fans that met him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm proud of my dad, and I'm I wouldn't trade it for a dad that'd be around still. I'm glad I had him for the years that I did, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So if you're lucky to live past the age of 60, if you're lucky to live past the age of 60 and actually make it to 80, and you're eventually put in an old age home, are you going to put some of the residents in wrestling holds and beat them up?
Yeah. I don't know.
You're gonna throw them through tables for supper, seconds at supper and stuff. I can see that. You'll put one of them in the claw for extra dessert. I can just see it. Ben, go ahead with a question, Ben.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Well, actually, I was just gonna ask. I know I have a daughter that's 5. She'll actually be 6 in 2 weeks, and is how do you at home when your son is what, 2 now, 2 or 3?
2.5, yeah.
2.5. Has he hit the stage of wanting to watch any of the Noggins or anything yet? Nickelodeon channels? Does he have
He watches Noggin. Yes, I put Noggin on because it's the only educational thing. SpongeBob isn't so educational, so I try to put the most educational thing. That's one thing Granddad taught me. He made all the boys get good grades and made them go to college and get an education before they became professional wrestlers. And I'm going to do the same thing to my son, but I won't force him into being a wrestler. I actually would prefer him not to be.
Yeah. But have you ever seen a picture of the guy who actually plays SpongeBob SquarePants on the show, like a picture of the guy who does the voice?
No.
He looks so scary, man. When I saw the picture of him for the first time, I was like, man, I don't want to sleep anymore.
Don't show the kids. That's why they make a cartoon about him.
What would ever happen if Lacey Von Erich was animated into a cartoon character? Would you have your own series like Sabrina the Teenage Witch had back in the 90s? Could you see that?
Not really the fame I'm looking for. I'm doing a movie. I'm shooting a movie currently that'll be in theaters next spring break. Yeah. I want to do movies and stuff, I think. Not really a series on myself. I'm not interesting enough.
Sure you are. You've got a legendary family and different things. I could see you in a show with a cat like Salem that could talk. That would work.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
It would be.
We'll have to talk to you.
If you
Talk
could be
about it.
if you could be reincarnated, would you come back as a dog or a cat?
Your dog. I hate cats.
Oh. Why? Dogs are easier to
Unless
look
it's
after?
a tiger.
Something like
I'd
that.
come back as a white tiger.
You managed Billy Kidman in Florida Championship Wrestling. What was that experience like for you? And that's actually a professional question.
He is actually a really good friend of mine. I just talked to him today. I talk to him probably every other day. He's a very, very good friend of mine. So we became friends that night. And so managing Billy was really great because I got a good friend out of it. So
Could you
that's all
ever?
I'm sorry, nothing juicier than that.
Could you ever see yourself facing Tori Wilson if she was still married to Billy Kidman and going after marriage rights or anything like that, or in an angle?
I haven't thought about it. No.
Put on the spot here. Different questions. That's what we need. Ben, go ahead.
Hey, that was a good question, but actually this interview just went down the toilet when Lacey said she doesn't like cats.
I do not like cats. My dad never liked cats. We always had lots of dogs. I remember having 7 dogs at one point. We had a lot of land, so they were just all outside dogs. So I think because Daddy didn't like cats, me and my sister don't.